90% of women are at some point in their lives going to be solely responsible for their finances.
So when we're talking about long-term care, we don't mean hospital stays or surgeries. This is the care that you need when you can't perform certain what we call activities of daily living. So think about bathing yourself, dressing yourself, eating, toileting.
So if you look at the average cost in the DC area, this sort of care can cost you well over $100,000 per year.
Are you able to self-insure for long-term care expenses? And don't forget the cost Ann mentioned. We're talking anywhere between $100,000 to $185,000 a year.
Hello, welcome back.
Hello, so good to see you again as always.
Great to see you too. I missed you last week.
I know we were apart for way too long.
We were. 7 days is just too long. But we're back, reunited, better than ever.
Yeah.
And we both had a great time out of the office, which we will talk more about. But welcome back, everybody, to Living Richly with Curo. This is episode 63. We are so excited to welcome you back. If you are an OG listener, and we're excited to welcome you for the first time. If you just found us, we love you all. We appreciate you all. My name is Ann McCabe. I am the CEO and a partner here at Curo Private Wealth. And I'm joined, as always, by my lovely partner, Atricia.
Hello, I am Atricia Roberts, COO and partner at Curo. Thanks for listening in.
Yes. And if this is your first time, our goal here at the podcast, as well as in what we do every day, each and every day with our clients, is to educate, inspire, and empower you on your financial journeys. And today is a really important topic. I know we say that frequently, but for reals, it's very important.
For real this
For real this time. We're going to be talking about how to plan for long-term care if you are a single woman. And even if you're not currently a single woman, we're going to share some pretty staggering statistics with you. So it is super important for all women, whether you are partnered or single, to listen up to this episode, because we're going to be going through some pretty important information. Before we do our A-team catch-up, I have a favor to ask of all of you. About 84% of you who listen frequently, regularly, let's say, aren't subscribed. And that's, a sad statistic, speaking of sad statistics. So we have a favor to ask you. If you have gotten any value out of any episode that you have listened to here on Living Richly with Curo, please take a moment right now, pause, and just subscribe wherever you're listening or watching. It helps our podcast so much, more than you may know. It will help other people find us, help the podcast grow. And the more we grow, the better content we can provide to you, the better guests we can provide to you. So that is our favor to ask of you today. Thank you. Please and thank you.
Yes, thanks in advance. And why wouldn't you want to be notified as soon as an episode releases? Why wouldn't you want to be the first to know?
Exactly. I can't understand it, but I think people are just like, yeah, I'll get around to it.
Right.
Or, it's just not one of those things that I think is top of mind. So that's why we wanted to bring that to your attention. So thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Now on to our A-team catch up. So as I mentioned, both of us were out of the office last week. So tell us about your lovely week out of the office, Atricia.
Yeah, it was such a busy week. I came back very tired, but it was worth it. So my sorority, which I have mentioned on our pod in previous episodes, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, celebrated its 57th convention here in what we consider our home of Washington, D.C., because the sorority was founded on the campus of Howard University back in 1913. So there were over 20,000 women in D.C. last week for this event at the D.C. Convention Center. And it was such a beautiful week. And I say that about my sorority a lot, but I always leave any of our events, any of our interactions, feeling so inspired just by the caliber of women I get to share the same space with. Like when you think about Senator Angela Also Brooks is a Delta, and she's speaking at our lunch. So it was just an amazing time. The week kicked off with a golf tournament on Tuesday, which it was my first tournament I've ever played in. Okay. So that was a
Yay.
big deal for me. I was actually pretty nervous. Um, but we played pretty well. I played pretty well. I was proud of myself. And 18 holes is no slouch of activity
Mucho.
when it's 90 degrees outside.
Yeah.
So it was a beautiful day, but it was so hot, but it was a great event. So I had a wonderful time with my sorority sisters. I had sorority sisters that I hadn't seen since I was in Savannah, back in town, sorority sisters from college at Florida State, back in town that I got to catch up with. So it was just a beautiful week. And I just feel really proud and inspired and hopeful. And even when things seem bleak, I think hopeful for the future.
Yeah. That's amazing. What an incredible experience to be
Yeah.
surrounded by wonderful, wonderful women.
Yeah, it was fantastic. And then my actual sister, my biological sister, is also a member of the same sorority. So it was even more special getting to do a lot of the things and attend the events with her. So it was
Yeah.
very nice.
Yeah. Tell everybody about the first day in
yeah.
white, the 20,000. That must have been just incredible to
Yeah.
see.
So our opening ceremony, everyone wears white, all white. And so as you come sort of down this escalator into the exhibition hall of the convention center, it's just like a sea of women dressed in white, 20,000 all in one space. It was just so overwhelming, like such a beautiful moment. Like I was almost in awe coming down this escalator, right? And just seeing like this sea of white and everybody's so excited to be together and so excited to share. And we also inducted 8 new honorary members. I won't call all of their names, but they include like Queen Latifah and Danielle Brooks and Swing Cash. So it was just a really exciting day, a really beautiful moment, and an incredible experience, always.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, is the white dress something that you always do for every
Yes.
convention? Okay.
Yes.
All right. So that is something. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a standard part of what we do in certain ceremonies.
Got it.
Yeah.
Very cool. That's awesome. Well, I know you're exhausted, but it sounds
Oh, yeah.
like a very
I'm
rewarding
recovering
experience.
now. Yeah, I'm recovering now a little bit, but definitely the last thing ended on Sunday, sort of morning. So Monday when I came in, I was still running on empty
Yeah.
from the week, but I'm starting to feel a little better and a little more recovered now, which is nice.
Yeah. Good.
All right,
Well,
enough of my stuff. Tell me about your adventures.
I pretty much did the same thing last week. Same Zeus. Just kidding. So I was with my family at a dude ranch in Idaho. That was our summer family vacation. So quite the different experience than Atricia had last week. I'd say, yeah. So for those of you who may be new, I call him my heterosexual life partner. We call him Wally here on the podcast. And Wally also has 2 boys. So we both have 2 boys. There's 4 of them total, 15, 13, 13, and 8. And we all went, all 6 of us, to this dude ranch in beautiful northern Idaho. It was like in the panhandle of Idaho, just absolutely gorgeous. And the actual ranch is on over 500 acres, but then they also are surrounded by public, like parkland, basically, that they lease. So you could have access to like 20,000 acres. Obviously, there's, not enough time, but we did tons of horseback riding, which was really fun. I grew up riding horses, so that is my happy place. And it was fun to see all the boys on horses. Wally had never even been on a horse before.
Oh,
did you not know that?
I didn't know that.
I know, first time. So, and he did fantastic. I was so proud of him. Yeah, he actually like passed the advanced test to go on advanced rides where you could canter by like Thursday. So, he did really well, and the boys had a great time, and there were so many activities. So we spent a lot of time all together, but then we also kind of separated and did our own thing sometimes. My 13-year-old discovered a passion for fishing. He caught 30 fish over the course of the week. Every moment that he had of free time, he's like, I'm going fishing. So there you go. I don't think he had ever been fishing before. So we
That
did
is,
skeet shooting and kayaking and hiking and archery. I mean, so I, like you, am also exhausted. I feel like I
yeah.
need a vacation from my vacation, but it was so much fun. And I highly, highly recommend, Dude Ranches may or may not even be on your radar screen. It's been on my bucket list for years because like I said, love horses and have, grew up riding horses. But it is such a great family vacation because there's something for everyone and it's just absolutely gorgeous. And the staff there, everybody was incredible. The service was amazing. The food, oh my gosh, the
Mm.
baker made me vegan pastries every day,
Oh,
every day.
that is wonderful.
And desserts, vegan pastries and desserts every day. Yeah. I mean, it was thank God I was doing a lot of activity because I would have
Right.
gained 10 pounds. I had to eat them. I'm like, it's not every day that I get vegan
Right. That
pastries
you
and
get vegan
desserts.
pastries for sure.
Yeah. So highly, highly recommend 10 stars. And it was just an incredible experience.
Oh, I'm glad you guys had a wonderful time. But I didn't know that Wally had never been on a horse before when you guys
Uh-uh.
were going to this tutoring.
I know. I was like, oh, we'll see how this goes. But he did great. I'm really proud of him. And he really
Good.
enjoyed it.
Yeah, that's what's important. It's
Mhm.
good. And so now you got to figure out how to get goalie fishing again.
Oh my gosh. So we had like no cell service and Wi-Fi except for like a 5 foot by 5 foot square in the main lodge. And so of course goalie, busts out his phone and like looks for a Bass
Right.
Pro fishing shop near us. Cause he's like, hey mom, is there a Bass Pro fishing shop near us? I'm like, I don't know. Like, when have I ever had to know that information?
Right. And I don't
But
even know if they
there is.
have them here. There are plenty down south. There's
No,
one
they
not too
have one
far
in
from my house in
Gainesville.
Savannah. Okay.
It's not close, but yeah. So anyway, we will be, I'm sure,
Yes.
heading to Bass Pro Fishing Shop. I'm like, can we just
Yes.
go to Dick's? Don't they
Right.
sell us?
Don't they have the same thing?
Yeah.
No, he's a
Anyway.
fisherman, mom.
Uh-huh. Yeah. He was at 29 fish by like, I think it was the second to last day. And he's like, I can't stop at 29. Like, I must go catch one more fish to make it an even 30. I'm like, go for it. So
That is
he
so
did great.
funny.
Yeah.
Just took to fishing. That's hilarious.
I know.
Well, good
It
for
was
him.
of all the things.
Yeah, good for them to unplug and get outside and get off the phones, get some fresh air.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I didn't read the fine print that we were gonna have like zero service. It was a blessing, but I did not prepare them for that. And so
Yeah.
there was definitely like the first day of withdrawals and like massive rage at, the technology addiction that all of them have. So but by the end of the week, I mean, even by like, the end of day one, they were totally
Hmm.
fine and just happy to be out in nature. And so
Yeah, that's great.
incredible. Yeah.
Great.
All right, so let's move on to our topic of today. We have a lot to cover,
Hmm.
so strap on your seatbelts because this is a pretty lengthy and sort of complicated topic that we're going to talk about. Super important. So let's talk first about why this matters. So we're going to be talking about long-term care planning for single women. And you've probably heard this before, but the first reason that it matters is that women live longer than men. We are also more likely to experience chronic health issues. And if you are single, whether that is by choice or by some sort of loss, you may not have a spouse or an adult child who can help you with care or decision making. So, the other thing we wanted to do is share some pretty crazy but very important statistics regarding women in general. So, this is something that we actually share on our website, but 90% of women are at some point in their lives going to be solely responsible for their finances, which is just an
Yeah,
incredible,
that's a staggering.
staggering 90%. This is also a crazy statistic. 75% of women in a male female relationship will be widowed by an average age of 54. Also staggering.
Yes. Yeah. I think
But
we
there's
talked about
more.
that one a little bit on a previous episode about losing a spouse. That's
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah. Crazy numbers. Also, if you look at the current residents in nursing homes, about 70% of them are women.
Mm.
And About 50% of women over 65 will need some sort of long-term care in their lifetime. And this is costly care. So if you look at the average cost in the DC area, which we are now, granted, this is a more expensive area than many parts of the country, but this sort of care can cost you well over $100,000 per year. So this is absolutely something that can dramatically change your financial plan. If you look at a private room in a nursing facility, a nursing
Mhm.
home in the DC area, you're looking at about
Ugh,
$182,000 per year. Okay, so this is why not only the statistics that we just shared, but also the cost portion of it is why it's so important to plan and to be having this conversation. So we think of this not as just a financial conversation, but really a life planning conversation.
absolutely.
So, yeah, so let's start with what is long-term care? Because I think it's important for us to set the stage and share the definition. I think it is something that is not always known. So, Teresa, why don't you share with everybody what is the definition of long-term care? What are we talking about?
Yeah, of course. So when we're talking about long-term care, we don't mean hospital stays or surgeries. This is the care that you need when you can't perform certain what we call activities of daily living. So think about bathing yourself, dressing yourself, eating, toileting. These are the kinds of activities that get limited that require long-term care. It can happen in your home, in an assisted living facility, or at a nursing home, and the costs vary dramatically. So it is important to note, and this is a very important note, Medicare does not cover long-term care. So there are limitations to your Medicare coverage, which typically end, I think, at like 90 days of a hospital stay. And from that point, if you need continuing care where you need skilled nursing assistance, that is where a long-term care plan would kick in.
Yeah. So let's talk about why single women need to plan differently. So, as we talked about a moment ago, if you are a single lady, you may not have a spouse or a partner or an adult child sort of lined up as a natural person to help you with your care. And women in general, not that men want to be a burden, but women especially, I think, are
Mhm.
sensitive to being a burden.
For sure.
So the way we think about this is if you plan properly, think of that as being the opposite of a burden. So this is why this conversation is so important. Having this conversation and think about these things gives you choices, it gives you flexibility, it prevents you from having to make an emergency or a crisis-based decision, which none of us want to make, and ultimately gives you peace of mind if you at least are thinking about these things, even if we're talking about hopefully years in the future for you. So we think of planning for long-term care in 4 pieces. So Teresa, why don't you go through the first 2 and then I'll go through the last 2.
Sounds good. So the first piece is legal documents. And this is important for most people, even if you're not a single woman, but especially critical. And those documents include things like a durable power of attorney. So this is someone who can manage your finances in the case you become incapacitated or unavailable and you can't do it yourself. There's also a healthcare proxy or an advance directive. And this is someone who you trust to make medical decisions for you if you can't. And this document will also document your health wishes. So think of things like do not resuscitate orders. This is where you would outline those instructions in an advance directive. And then there's also a HIPAA release, which is really important because remember, HIPAA laws mean that people can't just disclose your medical information or history. So having a HIPAA release allows the right people to access the health info if and when it is needed. The second piece to long-term care planning is also going to be the financial planning piece, which Anne mentioned earlier. This is a financial planning conversation. So you want to understand a few things as you start creating this plan. Could you pay out of pocket for care if needed, or we call it self-insuring? Are you able to self-insure for long-term care expenses? And don't forget the cost Anne mentioned. We're talking anywhere between $100,000 to $185,000 a year. Have you modeled what care costs look like and what that could do to your retirement plan and your assets? And especially if you're a younger person now, right? We're giving you numbers based on today's dollars, but just like education costs, healthcare costs get more expensive. So you want to be able to project what those future expenses may look like and the impact to your plan. And then, is long-term care insurance an option? So there is an insurance that many people can purchase, and it may be an option for you. So there are traditional long-term care policies, but then there are also newer, what we call hybrid policies that combine both long-term care insurance with some form of life insurance, which can be more flexible. If you never use the long-term care, then the insurance portion of the coverage will pay a benefit to your heirs. There are also options about the way you can pay for long-term care insurance. So traditional plans have a life pay where you pay a premium every year for until you go on claim. But then there are also newer policies that allow a 10 pay option where you might be able to fund all of the policy in the first 10 years of coverage. So regarding timing, there is a sweet spot, and this is usually between the ages of 50 and early 60s while you're still healthy enough to qualify, but you're not getting it too early and paying premiums for too many years prior to using the benefits. So I believe you have to be at least 40 to even apply for long-term care. But the sweet spot of age, if you can, of course, be healthy into your 50s, is somewhere between your 50s and early 60s.
Yeah. All right. So the third thing we want you to think about is your housing. So one of the questions you may ask yourself is, where do you want to live as you age? And if the answer is, I would like to stay in my home, that's great. I think that's a pretty common answer that we hear from people. So the next question, then, the sub question of that is, can you age in your home the way it currently is? Or can your home be modified so that you can safely age in place and also have accessibility? So if you have to, go up a big flight of stairs, for example, to get to your front door, that may not be a reasonable place to age unless you can, of course, install some sort of lift. So these are some of the questions you want to ask yourself if you are planning to stay in your home. Secondly, would you consider something like a 55 plus community, of which there are many in the area and all across the country? And then lastly, have you ever toured any assisted living communities in the area just to get a sense for the vibe and what they look like and what it may feel like should you choose to live there? You don't have to have all the answers today, but we are trying to give you some things to think about so that you can explore options today. And again, it's all about having more control and more flexibility so that you're not making emergency or immediate sort of crisis based decisions in the future. And then the last thing we want you to think about, which is really, really important, especially for our single women, is your support system. So think about if something were to happen to you tomorrow, you had an emergency or you needed something tomorrow, who would you call?
Mhm.
And I think that's an important question for all of us kind of, to think about. And if that answer is unclear, that's okay. You don't have to panic, but start building that circle of care or your circle of support now so that again, you're not having to make this decision when you're otherwise dealing with another emergency. So this could be trusted friends. This could be a sibling. It could be nieces or nephews. It can also be professionals, people like me and Atricia, your financial advisors, your attorney, maybe it's a care manager. So the important thing here is your team does not have to be big. We're not talking about, building out a basketball team or a football team here. We're just talking about having intentional people surrounding you that can be your support system both now and in the future as you continue to age.
Yes, very important. As a single woman, I concur.
Yeah.
You have to be intentional about building out the people and making sure that they know that they're your people.
Yes, that is true too. Yeah. You wanna make sure you're communicating that with them.
Right.
I also think it's important to mention that, it's common for you to have different people in your life for different things. So I know when I was
Mhm.
working on my estate plan, I'm one of a lot of siblings, and I'm very close with my siblings. And so, before Wally and I got together, my idea was that I would have my siblings, but my siblings have different strengths and weaknesses. And
Mhm.
so I was careful to choose ones for more of the financial related decisions versus the medical decisions. So it is not usually a one size fits all. And you really
Right.
want to think about the people that you're choosing and what their strengths are and the position that you want them to be in to be able to make the best decisions possible for you if needed.
Yeah, absolutely. So there are some common mindset blocks. And again, like any sort of end of life kind of decision, these conversations can get uncomfortable. So we want to address some of the blocks that you may be thinking of that's preventing you from taking the next step in planning for long-term care. And one of the ones we hear very often is, well, I'm healthy now. I don't need this. But that is exactly the point. Planning when you're healthy gives you more choices, better pricing, and peace of mind. So remember that. Like you want to plan for the bad before the bad happens, right? We buy fire insurance before the house burns down, right? Not the
Yes.
other way around. So addressing it when you're healthy is the best time to do it because then you're not forced into decisions that you weren't completely comfortable with. And of course, the pricing also matters. Healthier people are easier to insure. Another one we hear a lot, especially from women, is I don't want to be a burden. And again, as Anne already stated, and I'll double click, planning is the opposite of being a burden. It reduces the stress on your loved ones and ensures that they know exactly what you want. So think about it not as being a burden, but as actually giving a gift and doing a favor to those in your support system. Another common one is I'm overwhelmed and I don't know where to start. And so we want to encourage you to just start small. Take one step, make one action today, like talking to someone you trust or answering one of the questions we posed on this podcast today, because that's progress. So even starting to think about what you may want, right? Even start with maybe that decision. Would I want to live in a community? Would I want to stay at home? Even that one question, if you can answer it, is a huge step in starting your plan toward long-term care.
Yeah, exactly. And on that note, here are some other specific ideas for things that you can do right now,
Mhm.
immediately, today. So
Today.
here, today, not tomorrow, not in a week, not in a year, today. So here are five things. Number one, review your estate documents or make an appointment to get them done if you haven't done them or if it has been many years since you've done them. And if you need a referral to a great estate planning attorney, please reach out.
Mhm.
You can email us at podcast@curoprivatewealth.com because we have lots of contacts in the area who can help you out. We work with a lot of different attorneys, so we're happy to help connect you. Number two, go ahead and make a list of the people that you want to be involved in your care decisions and start to think about what I mentioned earlier about kind of what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses. Do you want them to be more financially decision based? Do you want them to be more for your medical or your healthcare decisions? Number three, ask your financial advisor for a long-term care analysis. So, as Atricia was mentioning earlier, really understanding could you self-insure if you needed to? Would you qualify for long-term care insurance? How much would that cost? How much should you get? All of those questions your advisor or we can help you with. Number four, start learning about long-term care insurance. So even if you're not in a position to pull the trigger and buy long-term care insurance right now, it's a pretty complicated, any
Mhm.
financial products are complicated. So really making sure that you understand how they work, what is the fine print, what are the nuances is really important. And then lastly, either drive by or set up a tour for a local assisted living facility. Just see what is out there. One of the important things to note is a lot of times these places do have wait lists, especially the nicer
Mhm.
ones. And so even if you did decide one day, okay, I'm ready to make this decision and ready to make the move. I mean, we have clients who have been on wait lists for some of these places for a long time.
Yeah.
And so it's not a matter of just you are ready and now you're going to find the right home for you. So knowing what is out there is really important.
Yeah, and Americans are aging, right? We're getting older. So these kinds of facilities are going to be harder to get into, right, as you wait longer. So start making the consideration now. Alrighty, so here's our takeaway. Being single doesn't mean being alone, which I love. That's like my mantra in life.
Yeah, for
But
sure.
it also doesn't mean you're vulnerable if you plan ahead. Okay, so creating a long-term care plan for yourself is one of the most loving things you can do, not just for you and your future self, but also for your loved ones and your care system. It's a way to protect your own independence that you worked so hard to build. And like Anne knows, I'm fiercely independent and I love every part of that. But planning for the idea that I may have to care for myself is also a big part of ensuring my independence continues.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. And
Yeah.
if you all need help getting started, we are here for you. These are conversations we have all the time with clients. This is what we do in our real
Mhm.
life jobs. In addition to this podcast, is help people plan for the future. So if this episode resonated with you, please share it with one of your female friends that you care about so that we can help support each other and also that we can help normalize this conversation
Right.
because it's a necessary conversation and this is about supporting each other and as Atricia mentioned protecting our independence which is super important. We are also going to drop some links to further resources in the show notes that you can check out if you would like to learn more. There's also a calculator online where you can actually type in your zip code and see what the average costs are in case you are not in the DC area, because I know we tend to talk about costs in this area, but
Right.
we'll share that as well. So make sure to check out those resources in the show notes below.
Yeah. And I know we talked a lot about specifically for single women, but we also have long-term care planning conversations with partnered couples as well.
Yeah.
People who don't want to have to depend on adult children, right, to care for them in that time. So share them with those people as well.
Yes, for sure. It's an important conversation for everyone.
Yeah.
All right, Atricia, do you have a closing thought for us today?
Um, I don't really have anything profound. I kept trying to think of like what profound can I share with the pod today? And I was drawing a blank, but it was probably in my recovery brain. But again, just because I'm still floating on the high of last week with my sorority, I just want to share how grateful I am for my sister friends and my sisters, the strong women in my life who support me for Anne being such a wonderful partner and confidant. We can vent and strategize and plan. So I just think about how important the women are, how great they are, how much value they bring to my life. And I felt that immensely last week, and I still feel it now. And so grateful for you, Anne, and so grateful for all of the other women in my support system and in my care
Yes.
system. So that's just my note for today. Just love on the strong women who support you in your life this week.
Mm. The feeling so mutual, so mutual, as you know. Super grateful for you too. And I think this whole episode is one like big closing thought. So I didn't have anything separate prepared either, just that we should be having these conversations and planning for the future and not really we talk a lot about the definition of living richly and so many people say that the definition is having flexibility and options
Mhm.
and I think that's what this whole conversation is about. So thank you all so much for tuning in, and we look forward to seeing you again next week on Tuesday. We're now dropping episodes
Yep.
every Tuesday,
And
so
if you're
stay
subscribed, you would know that.
exactly. Thank you. Thank you for that. So until next time,
Live richly.
thanks again for tuning in. If you enjoyed today's episode, please be sure to subscribe and share it with someone who might benefit from it. Friendly reminder that this is for informational purposes only. For additional information, please visit us at www.curoprivatewealth.com. Until next time, live richly.